Welcome to Betrayal Files. I'm Shiko, and if you've ever been stabbed in the back by someone you trusted, you're not alone. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because the next betrayal is even more crazy. Now let's get into it. I used to believe therapy was sacred, a safe zone, the one place where everything ugly could be dragged out into the light and maybe, just maybe, healed. That's why I agreed to it when Melissa suggested we start couples counseling. We'd been married 7 years, and the last 2, cold, detached, but not hostile, just quiet. She said she wanted to reconnect. I wanted that too. So, when she brought up Dr. Callum Reed, someone her friend recommended, I didn't hesitate. He had this calm energy, clean office, leather chairs, soft voice. The kind of guy who made you feel like you were being heard. At first, the sessions felt normal. We'd talk about our routines, the lack of intimacy, Melissa's resentment, my long work hours. But over time, something started to feel off. It wasn't the words. It was the glances, the timing, the little smirks between them when I mentioned something embarrassing. Once, I said Melissa barely touched me anymore. Reed's eyes flicked to her. She grinned. I tried to shake it. Told myself I was being paranoid, insecure. I was the one with the problem, right? That's why we were in therapy. Because I couldn't read her anymore. But then something happened. It was late one night. Melissa was in bed beside me, scrolling through her phone like always. She laughed, quietly, then turned it face down on the nightstand and rolled over. She never did that before. Never hit her screen like that. I waited until her breathing slowed. Then I picked up the phone. One message preview was all it took. You were incredible today. I couldn't stop thinking about it during our session. And contact Mame? Just see. My chest went hollow. Hands shaking, I tapped the screen, but it was locked. I stood there, staring at the dark glass. My wife was asleep beside me, peaceful, like nothing was wrong. Right? Everything was wrong. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like screaming. I felt calm. Because I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to play along. And they'd never see it coming. It was 2 nights after I saw the preview message. The moment I'd been waiting for arrived. Melissa was in the shower. Her phone sat on the bathroom counter, unlocked, carelessly close to a glass of water. Almost poetic, really, how fragile everything was in that moment. I picked it up. Calm. Cold. She hadn't changed her passcode. I wasn't sure if that meant she trusted me, or simply didn't fear me enough to cover her tracks. Either way, I got in. At first it was innocent. A few memes. A grocery list, then the thread. But name C, Dr. Callum Reed. She saved him under an emoji, like a teenager sneaking around. It should have made me laugh. It didn't. I might do a tune. The conversation was long, months long. I didn't have time to read it all, so I scrolled back about a week. The messages were immediate gut punches, not vague. Not flirtatious. Explicit. I couldn't stop thinking about you during today's session, he'd written. You kept making eye contact while he spoke, she replied. It turned me on so bad. My stomach turned. Further down. You were incredible at the hotel. I still smell you on me. Same place next Tuesday. That one that made my blood stop. Don't worry, he's completely oblivious. There were codes too. Book club meant meeting. Tea meant sex. They'd laugh at my reactions during therapy, mock my attempts to reconnect. He'd say things like, "You should see his face when I suggest vulnerability." They weren't just cheating. They were collaborating, using me as a game piece. Every session was a performance, me pouring my heart out while they had inside jokes about what would happen after the session ended. It was a whole second life, when they shared with smirks and smut and zero remorse. I wanted to scream, smash the phone, confront her in the hallway, soaking wet, towel barely wrapped around her self-respect. I wanted to ask her how long this had been going on. Did she even feel guilty? But I didn't, because in that moment, something else took over. Reality. This wasn't going to end in a messy fight, not with tears or slamming doors or "I made a mistake." No, that would let them walk away with drama, with control. I was going to take that from them, piece by piece. I backed up the texts, sent them to a hidden folder on my laptop, saved the contact photo, took screenshots, just in case she tried to wipe it later. Then I placed her phone exactly where I found it and walked into the kitchen to make coffee like nothing happened. When Melissa stepped out, she kissed me on the cheek. She smelled like coconut and betrayal. I smiled. "Should we book another session with Reed?" I asked, stirring my cup. She looked at me. Slight hesitation, then that soft, manipulative grin. "Yeah," she said. "Maybe next Wednesday?" I nodded. "Perfect. Let them think I'm still the fool. Let them believe they're getting away with it. I'd sit on that couch just like always. I'd talk about trust and love and rebuilding. I'd ask Dr. Reed for help. And I'd watch them squirm when I tore their little world apart. I wasn't just going to catch them. I was going to expose them. Publicly. Permanently. They turned therapy into theater? Fine. I'll give them a finale they'll never forget. When you know someone is lying to your face, the world shifts. Every sentence feels like theater. Every smile becomes a mask. And suddenly, you're not just a husband anymore. You're an observer, a spy, a student of your own betrayal. That's who I became. I walked into our next therapy session calm and steady, shaking hands with Dr. Reed like nothing had changed. He smiled like always, warm, trustworthy, maybe even proud of himself. Melissa sat beside me, brushing her fingers against mine like she hadn't spent the last week laughing behind my back. I played along. That session, I talked more than usual. I opened up about old childhood wounds, father issues, anxiety about being enough. I said all the things I knew would make me sound vulnerable, trusting, blind. Reed leaned in, offered support, nodded with so much empathy I wanted to laugh. But I didn't. I watched, and I listened. He kept glancing at Melissa. Supple looks, fast smiles, the kind of connection you don't pick up on until you're looking for it. I was looking now, hard. After that session, I got in my car and pulled out my phone. I opened a voice memo and started recording everything I could remember. Exactly what Melissa had said. The tone Reed used when he defended her. How often he redirected blame onto me. Every detail. I did the same thing after the next session, and the next. Each time I noticed more. He'd laugh a little too long at Melissa's jokes. He'd call her insightful even when she said something cold. He'd minimize her distance as emotional self-protection and tell me to give her space to process. He never said anything that sounded blatantly wrong. That's what made it genius. But I wasn't there to heal anymore. I was there to document. When I had a few sessions logged, I went digging. I looked into Reed's license history, online reviews, credentials. At first, everything looked polished. 5-star reviews, a clean website. But the deeper I went, the more cracks I found. A Reddit thread from 5 years ago talked about a Dr. Colum R. who had allegedly gotten too personal with a client. No names, no proof. But the details lined up, and then I found it. A disciplinary notice from the state board, buried 3 pages deep in a PDF from the licensing authority's archive. He'd been investigated for boundary violations with a client, but it had been inconclusive. He'd kept his license. Still, I wasn't surprised. Manipulators know how to walk the edge without falling. Now I knew he had a pattern. Back at home, I kept pretending. I asked Melissa about her day. I joked about our progress. I praised Reed in front of her, watching her eyes for any flicker of guilt. Nothing. One afternoon, she came back from the gym, tossed her bag on the couch, and headed for the shower. I almost didn't check. Almost. But something told me, just look. Buried under a tangled set of earbuds and a half-used bottle of dry shampoo, I found it. A second phone. No case, no lock screen, just quiet confirmation. I turned it on. A message popped up immediately. Thursday, still good. Same room, same name. I stared at the screen. She hadn't just betrayed me. She built an entire system for it. This wasn't spontaneous. It was infrastructure, routine, built around my trust, my time, my marriage. I turned the phone over slowly in my hands. The trap was almost ready. But now, it was time to widen the net. The burner phone wasn't new. The screen was scratched. The case was missing. It had no wallpaper, no apps, no games. Just a blank screen with a text thread sitting open, like it didn't matter if anyone saw. Because no one was supposed to. I sat at the dining table, the phone in my hand, pretending I was checking emails. Melissa was in the shower again, steam slipping out from under the door, masking her silence with white noise. I opened the photos folder. The first image nearly made me drop the phone. Melissa in Reed's office. Same couch we sit on for therapy. But this time, she's not sitting politely. She's barefoot, curled up in a way she never sits with me. Her head is tilted, lips parted. It's a candid shot, taken from behind Reed's desk. My throat tightened. Another photo, her lying on her stomach on the couch, laughing. Another, Reed standing behind her, shoulders too close, smiling like he just won something. Then a video. I hesitated, but hit play. It's shaky, like it was filmed quickly. The angle faces Reed's wall. I recognize his diploma, the bookshelf with the carefully curated titles. Then they enter the frame. Melissa walks in first. Reed follows. She turns. He kisses her. No hesitation, no subtlety. Right there, beside his framed license. The same office where he tells me to be vulnerable. The same room where I talk about saving our marriage. They kiss for a long time. He whispers something I can't make out. She giggles. I pause it. The silence around me feels loud. This wasn't just physical. This was psychological warfare. He used everything I told him. My fears, my insecurities, as ammunition. And she let him. I went into the files. The burner wasn't just a messaging tool. It was a vault, bookings, emails, confirmations from a hotel upstate. Reed had reserved a room under the name Jason Cole. Paid in cash, notes said 2 nights, no distractions. Receipts, directions, an alias. They had covered every base except one, underestimating me. I forwarded every file to myself, then to a hidden cloud backup, then downloaded it to an encrypted drive. Twice. Then I wiped all traces of my activity and returned the phone exactly as I found it. Melissa walked out moments later, towel wrapped around her, hair damp. She smiled at me. "You want to order Thai tonight?" I smiled back. "Sure. Let's do something simple." She kissed my forehead and walked away. Simple? Nothing about this was simple anymore. At night, I laid in bed staring at the ceiling. Every memory of our sessions played back in my mind, but now, with a new filter. I could see what I missed before, the micro-reactions, the emotional manipulation, the layers. They thought I was the clueless one, but they forgot something. I watched. I listened, and I never confronted them, which made them bold. So now I had everything I needed. The burner phone gave me proof, but it also gave me an idea. I wasn't going to show her the evidence. I wasn't going to confront Reed in a parking lot. I wasn't going to scream in the middle of a restaurant. No, I was going to wait. Book one, final session. Their guard down, their routine unchanged. And I'd sit in that chair, just like always. And when they least expected it, I'd light a match and burn their little world to the ground. I used to think revenge was about anger, that it came from a place of heat, fury, chaos. But that's not true. Real revenge, the kind that changes people, comes from clarity, from cold precision, from knowing exactly what they did and making sure they watch it fall apart. And now, it wasn't just about me anymore. Reed had a wife. That much I confirmed from his therapist's license profile. One click deeper, and I found her name listed on an old seminar website. Emma Reed, a teacher. They even co-authored a paper once on emotional boundaries in marriage counseling. The irony would have made me laugh if it hadn't made me sick. I ran a search. Local articles, social posts, an old PTA newsletter. Took less than a week to piece together enough. She was real. She looked kind. The kind of woman who still believed in people. Who probably thought her husband was out helping marriages, not stealing them. I debated reaching out, but then I remembered the burner phone. The messages about how easy it was to deceive their spouses. The contempt. The certainty they'd never be caught. So I wrote a message. Not angry, not cruel, just truthful. I told her who I was, what I'd found. I attached redacted screenshots. Nothing explicit, just enough to open the door. 2 days passed before she responded. She thanked me. Then she asked for everything. I sent it all. We spoke that night. Emma's voice didn't crack once, but you could hear the weight. The deep, silent rage of someone who'd been lied to so thoroughly. She'd started to question her own instincts. I knew that feeling. And then she said something I didn't expect. "You're not the first." That was the confirmation I needed. Reed was a repeat offender, and no one had ever stopped him. Until now. But that wasn't the only call I made. There was someone else in Melissa's past. A woman she cheated with back in college. I only knew because I'd once found old emails years ago. Nothing happened at the time. Melissa swore it was just a phase. But I never forgot the name. So I reached out. And what I learned chilled me. Melissa hadn't just had a one-time affair back then. It was an ongoing pattern. Emotional manipulation, double lives, lying to partners with ease. The woman told me it ended badly. Melissa gaslit her, made her feel insane, left when things got too real. We spent 2 hours comparing timelines. There was no denying it now. Melissa didn't stumble into an affair with Reed. She sought out someone just like her. I thought about all the nights I stayed up wondering if I was the problem, if I wasn't enough. And now, I realized the truth. She never wanted fixing. She wanted control. So I made a plan. I booked one last therapy session. Same day, same time. Melissa agreed without question. Reed confirmed it like clockwork. But this time, we wouldn't be alone. I invited both Emma and Melissa's former partner. I asked them to come, not into the room but outside it, in the hallway, where I'd leave the door cracked just enough, where they could hear everything. I rented a directional mic, set up hidden recording gear. I even rehearsed what I'd say. It wasn't just a session anymore. It was the performance of my life. One last act. In the theater they built with lies. The date was set. The room was booked. And they had no idea the curtain was about to fall. I arrived 20 minutes early. Not because I was nervous, but because I needed time to set the stage. The microphone was hidden beneath my shirt collar, wired through a tiny transmitter in my jacket. I checked the audio recorder in my pocket twice. Everything was working. The hallway mic was already positioned, tucked near the baseboard outside the door, facing the spot where Emma and Melissa's former partner would stand. Their instructions were simple. Listen. Don't enter until they heard my cue. The couch was exactly as I remembered it. Neutral tones, fake comfort, the same framed art on the wall, the same soft clock ticking loud enough to make you feel watched. I sat down and waited. A few minutes later, Melissa arrived. She walked in like nothing was wrong. Calm, lip gloss perfect. Her cold smile, rehearsed, automatic, landed on me like frost. "Hey," she said, taking her usual spot beside me. "Hey," I replied, mirroring the ease. Then Reed entered. Button-down shirt, rolled sleeves, clipboard in hand, like always. He greeted us with that same therapist voice. Measured, empathetic, fake. "Glad you both made it today," he said as he closed the door. "Let's pick up where we left off. Daniel, last week you mentioned feeling invisible. Do you want to start there?" I nodded. Sure, why not? I played the part well. Just enough emotion to sell it, just enough vulnerability to draw them in. Reed asked open-ended questions. Melissa responded like she was in a play, repeating all the usual lines about how she felt misunderstood and needed space to reconnect with herself. It was all so rehearsed it felt insulting. The conversation went in circles for 20 minutes. I let them talk, let them pretend they were smarter than me, let them dig deeper into the lie. Then I stopped. I sat up straighter, looked Melissa in the eye, and asked, "Melissa, do you love him?" She blinked. Just once. Then nothing. Silence filled the room. Reed shifted in his seat. I could hear the subtle intake of breath, the faint creak of the leather, as he leaned forward. Reed stammered. "Daniel, I'm not sure this is the most constructive." I turned to him. "It's okay," I said. "Calm, slow. They already know." Melissa's eyes widened, her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Reed's hand dropped his pen. "What are you talking about?" "Melissin, quote, quite horrible." Despite the fact Hicks didn't answer. Instead, I turned toward the door. My voice was steady. You can come in now. And then it happened. The doorknob turned. The latch clicked. And the door opened. 2 figures stepped in from the hallway. Emma, Reed's wife, walked in first. She didn't say a word. Her face was stone, betrayal and composure molded into one expression. Behind her, the woman Melissa had lied to in college, the one she once discarded like a phase. Both of them stood there, silent witnesses to the house of cards collapsing in real time. Melissa's face drained of color. Reed stood halfway, like he couldn't decide whether to run or sit. "This is insane," Melissa whispered. "No," I replied. "This is truth. Something both of you ran from for years." The room was heavy. No one moved. No one breathed. Everything I'd built, every thread I'd pulled, it had led to this exact moment. And neither of them had seen it coming. The silence was broken by the sound of Emma pulling out her phone. She hit record and said, "Start from the beginning." Emma stepped fully into the room, calm and collected, but her eyes were volcanic. She didn't need to raise her voice. Her presence said everything. She walked past Reed without acknowledging him and stood near the corner of the office, arms crossed, waiting. Behind her came the second woman, the one Melissa once wrote off as a mistake back in college. She didn't look hurt. She looked done, like a person who had already mourned the lie and was now here for the reckoning. Melissa froze in place, her lips parted, hands clenched in her lap. Reed stood halfway from his chair. "This is a private session," he began. "Not anymore," I interrupted. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the recorder, pressed play. First, there was silence. Then her voice, Melissa's. "I keep thinking how funny it is. Him talking about how much he wants to fix things, while I'm still sore from you last night." Then Reed's laughter. Real, sharp, mocking. Melissa gasped, "Daniel!" Held up a finger. "Not yet." More audio played. Her messages, his replies, their jokes, their plans, their contempt. "Just play along. He eats it up. He still thinks I love him. Don't worry, he's in too deep to see it. Same hotel. Same time. Same name." Their voices filled the room like poison leaking from a cracked pipe. Reed slumped into his chair, pale, sweating. His hands trembled as he tried to interrupt. "You can't. You're recording. This is unethical. This is entrapment." "This," I said, "this is a mirror. You just don't like what's in it." Melissa's voice cracked. "Daniel, I didn't know how to stop it." "No," I said, looking her dead in the eyes. "You didn't want to stop." She covered her face. For the first time in months, she wasn't in control. Her words failed her. I turned to Reed. "You want unethical?" I asked. "How about sleeping with a client's wife? How about using paid sessions to groom someone into betraying her marriage?" He looked at Emma, finally registering her presence. "I can explain." She shook her head. "Don't." Emma pulled out her phone and started recording. "I'm not here for explanations," she said. "I'm here for documentation." Reed reached for his phone, as if to call someone. Maybe his lawyer. Maybe his board. Melissa stood, breathing hard, trying to speak. "We didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I said. "Every message, every meetup, every smug little therapy session. You meant all of it, and now it's all right here." I dropped a flash drive on Reed's desk. "That's a copy of everything. Messages, photos, hotel receipts, audio. I also sent it to your licensing board." Reed's face crumpled. What? What do you mean?" He stepped forward. "I reported you this morning." His mouth opened, then closed. His knees buckled as he sat back down, like someone had turned off a switch in his spine. "You're lying," he mumbled. "I'm not. They'll have everything in their inbox by now. And since Emma's here, I'm sure they'll be getting a statement from your spouse as well." Melissa collapsed into the chair. "Daniel, please, this doesn't have to be like this." I laughed, quiet, controlled. "Oh, Melissa, it always had to be like this." Reed buried his face in his hands. Then the office phone rang, and no one moved to answer it. Everything unraveled faster than I expected. By the end of the week, Dr. Callum Reed's face was plastered across a local news article. "Licensed therapist under investigation for alleged misconduct with client's spouse." The headline didn't mention names, but anyone who knew him didn't need it spelled out. Within 72 hours, his license was under emergency review. Within 10 days, it was suspended permanently. Emma filed for divorce the same morning the board confirmed the investigation. She emptied their joint accounts. Smart move. Apparently, she'd already spoken to a lawyer months ago, just in case. Turns out, she'd had her own suspicions. She just didn't have proof until now. Now, she had a vault. She moved out that weekend, quietly, without drama, like someone who had nothing left to say. As for Melissa, well, it didn't stay quiet for long. I never shared the full recordings publicly, but people talk, and someone, maybe Emma, maybe one of her friends, leaked just enough of the details to blow it all open in our circle. Her co-workers found out. Friends she used to brunch with on Sundays started pulling back. She stopped showing up to the office 2 weeks later. Technically, she wasn't fired, but I know PR speak when I hear it. Transitioning out is the corporate version of, "We don't want your mess anywhere near us." She tried texting me. Once. A long, rambling message about regret, miscommunication, and how things spiraled in a way she never intended. I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded it to my divorce attorney. We filed immediately, with documentation. Not just the affair, but the emotional manipulation, the recordings, the breach of therapy ethics. The court didn't even blink. Everything moved quickly, cleanly, brutally. The house? Mine. Joint savings? Frozen, then redistributed with a slant. Car? Hers. Dignity? Gone. I wasn't cruel. I wasn't vindictive. I just let the truth do the work. And the truth didn't need my help. It burned through everything on its own. Friends who once looked at me like I was the quiet, boring one suddenly wanted to check in. I got messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Some offering support, others just hungry for details. I gave none. That part of my life was scorched. I had no desire to sift through the ashes with spectators. I kept working, kept moving forward, and I felt clear. Not happy, not triumphant, just clear. It was like finally exhaling after holding my breath for too many years. The irony is, therapy did fix something. Not my marriage. Reed taught me to speak up, even if it was just to dismantle him. Melissa taught me to listen to the silence between words. They didn't heal me. They exposed me. And in doing so, they set me free. But there's one part I never told anyone. Not my lawyer. Not Emma. Not the woman from Melissa's past. Not even the few friends I still trust. Because even after all that, after the affair, the lies, the mockery, I still kept one truth close to my chest. One thing I discovered during the fallout that changed everything I thought I knew. There was one more voice recording, one I hadn't played for anyone else. Isn't that one? Melissa admitted everything. before the affair even began. People called it revenge. They saw the recordings, the fallout, the perfectly timed exposure, and assumed this had all been a vendetta, that I wanted to hurt them, humiliate them. But that's not true. I didn't need Melissa to suffer. I didn't care if Reed lost everything. I didn't want to be remembered for how I broke them apart. I just wanted to know I wasn't crazy. Because that's what betrayal really does. It doesn't just hurt, it unanchors you. Makes you question your own memory, your instincts, your worth. It gaslights you into thinking you're the reason everything's falling apart, when the truth is happening right in front of your eyes. And therapy? That made it worse. Every time I sat on that couch, opened my mouth and poured out some personal failure or fear, they were watching each other, sharing glances, turning my grief into a game. I did just lose trust in my marriage. I lost trust in reality. That's what I wanted back. So no, I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. I wanted to hold every lie up to the light and watch it dissolve. I wanted to look at myself in the mirror and finally say, you were right. You saw it. You weren't broken. They were. And now, the silence was gone. The story spread. People talked. Lives changed. But inside me, something was still. Still, but not empty. For the first time in years, I felt peace. The final court date arrived like the closing chapter of a book I never asked to write. Melissa sat across the room with her lawyer, trying not to look at me. She'd lost weight, wore neutral colors, no ring. Reed wasn't there. He'd already signed a sworn affidavit waiving his right to comment or intervene. His name wasn't listed in the divorce paperwork, but everyone in that courtroom knew why we were here. The judge reviewed the documentation, audio transcripts, evidence, the timeline, and was clear-cut, uncontested. Melissa's attorney leaned in and whispered something. She nodded. Then, just before the judge finalized everything, he paused. He looked up at me and said, "Mr. Winokur, is there anything you'd like to say before I issue the final ruling?" I didn't expect that, but I stood, not to make a speech, just to tell the truth. "I'm not here because someone cheated," I said. "I'm here because the truth was buried under performance. Because I spent over a year trying to fix a marriage that someone else was already tearing down behind my back. Professionally. I went to therapy for healing. I found manipulation instead." I glanced over at Melissa. She didn't cry. She didn't move. "I don't want to punish anyone," I continued. "I just want what's fair, and I want to be done." The judge nodded slowly. "Then let's finish this." He signed the order. Just like that, it was over. But before I could even sit down, the clerk handed my attorney a document. She read it, blinked, then turned to me and whispered, "You might want to see this." It was a subpoena. Dr. Callum Reed was suing me for defamation. And he wasn't just coming for money. He wanted the recordings suppressed. All of them. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I found myself sitting in another courtroom. This time not for closure, but for defense. Dr. Callum Reed was suing me. Charge, defamation, emotional distress, unlawful record. He wanted the tapes erased, the evidence dismissed. He claimed I had violated the safe space of therapy, even as he'd been the one corrupting it from the inside. But the truth, he wasn't trying to win. He was trying to silence me. The courtroom was small, quiet, the kind where every cough echoed too loud, where every file shuffled by a clerk felt like a gavel. Era was there, So was Melissa. Both had been subpoenaed as witnesses. Neither looked at me, and that was fine. This wasn't about being seen anymore. It was about being heard. Reed's lawyer did what you'd expect. Framed him as a respected professional whose boundaries blurred due to emotional manipulation from a client's spouse. Called the recordings an invasion of privacy. Claimed my obsession had permanently damaged his ability to practice. But none of it held weight. Because then it was my turn. My lawyer played the recordings again. Not all of them. Just enough. Just the right ones. The court heard Reed laugh about my trauma. Heard Melissa mock my attempts to reconnect. Heard the coded messages, the secret meetings, the lies. And then the judge leaned forward. Removed his glasses. Looked straight at Reed. "This isn't defamation," he said. "This is documentation." He turned the page slowly. "You weren't just unethical," he continued. "You were predatory. You weaponized your role to insert yourself into the life of a vulnerable client, and then exploited that trust for personal gain." He paused. "My opinion, that's not just unprofessional. It's a gross abuse of power." The courtroom didn't gasp. No dramatic music played. Just the quiet devastation of someone finally being seen for what they were. Melissa wept. Not loudly, not performatively, but quietly. The kind of cry that doesn't expect anything in return. She didn't look at me. When the judge asked her if she had anything to add, she stood slowly, cleared her throat. "I never planned to ruin anything," she said. "But I did. I lied. I let it all happen. I don't want Daniel back. I just want him to know. I'm sorry." I believed her. Not enough to forgive, but enough to let go. The judge dismissed Reed's case in full, denied every motion, ordered him to cover court costs, and refer the transcripts to the ethics committee for further review. Again. As I stood to leave, I looked at Reed one final time. He didn't glare. He didn't speak. He just stared at the floor like he finally understood something he never saw coming. Outside, the wind was cool. The sun was low in the sky. I walked out of the courthouse, alone. But lighter, quiet, still, and, for the first time in over a year, I didn't feel like I was carrying anything anymore. Not her. Not him. Not the need to explain myself to anyone. That was their weight now. Mine was gone. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need closure. I just needed the silence to end. I did that. I healed myself. They just taught me what needed to be cut out. Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this. See you in the next one.